Part 75. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 747. The Jiyan continent is separated from the Yin-Yang Strait, and the continent that is far away from the Jiyan continent is called the Jiyang continent. In Jiyang continent, men are superior to women. Men dominate everything here, while women are men's vassals and playthings. A construction site by the sea. You little bitch, what are you looking at? Why don't you hurry up and get to work? Don't you want to eat? An ant with a fat head and big ears, wearing a supervisor's uniform, yelled at dozens of women in front of her, and swung the whip in her hand from time to time. If you are unlucky, you will be whipped. Day by day, do you want to get involved with Shangguan people? Just dream. Bah! You slut! The supervisor's aunt continued to curse, and her language became more and more vulgar. But none of the women present dared to legitimately refute the supervisor's aunt. Although they were both women at the bottom of society, the latter was wearing a supervisor's uniform. In other words, these women are already deeply numb to their current lives and have no sense of resistance at all. Women are weak and cannot do any menial work, they can only take care of logistics. A black car drove into the construction site. After the car stopped, two men got out. One of the bald men waved his hand and pointed to the unloading site in front. Brother Chin, look, these are all newly arrived goods, and no one has tasted them all. Take a look, do you like any of them? Brother, I'll give it to you for free right away. Thank you, Chin Chi responded casually, looking at the group of women without stopping even for women with hot bodies and beautiful looks. No. Still no. Chin Chi finished looking for a group of people and couldn't find the person he wanted to see. He felt a little disappointed, but soon went to look for the next group. After more than a dozen batches in succession, Chin Chi looked through all the newly sent goods, but still couldn't find anyone. Chin Chi looked in one direction. In that direction is the extremely Yin continent separated by the strait. I hope Dao is on the Jiyan continent. Chin Chi held such luck in his heart, but he still had to keep looking for what he should be looking for. Since Sutingyu can't be found here, Chin Chi plans to leave here. Go faster, walk faster. The men responsible for escorting the goods had fierce eyes, and they would immediately swing the whip out of anyone who was uncooperative. But then, an accident happened. A woman suddenly left the team, as if grasping the life-saving straw that was close at hand. With a pop, she knelt down in front of Chin Chi, and then kowtowed repeatedly. This officer, please take me away. I have many skills and I can do many things. I can do whatever you want me to do. When the escorting men, who were still arrogant at first, saw this situation, they did not appear immediately and take the person away, but quietly watched the subsequent development. In the past, a woman asked for help in public. Unexpectedly, she attracted a rich and handsome man, so she quickly kicked her boyfriend. And that woman's worth has also risen with the tide. Brother Chin, I see that this little beauty is pretty. Why don't you? The bald man saw the movement here and came over to startle. When the woman heard this, a bit of hope arose on her face. Chin Chi did not look at the kneeling woman in front of him, but turned to the bald man and said softly, "It's time for me to go." Okay. The bald man raised his hand and touched his bald head. Brother Chin, let me see you off. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 748. Guanren. Guanren, I can do anything. I can do anything. The woman refused to give up and shouted emotionally. The bald man made a gesture, and immediately two male supervisors walked out quickly, one on each side, and pulled the woman away. In the end, the woman was taken away and not sent back to her original team. The bald man patted his car door. Brother Chin, where do you want to go next? I'll take you there. No need to go to such trouble, just go about your business. I don't have anything to do anyway, so I'm just wandering around and joining you by the way. When it came to this matter, Qin Shi no longer shied away. Brother Qin, sit tight. The car sped away. The bald man looked for a topic enthusiastically. A lot of good goods have been purchased at several nearby checkpoints. Is Brother Qin interested? Qin Shi didn't answer immediately, but the bald man burst into laughter, thinking that Qin Shi was shy and ran out of words. Whether he is a newbie or a veteran, the bald man can tell at a glance. As for Qin Shi, in the eyes of the bald man, he is obviously a novice who has not tasted the delicious food yet. The bald man controlled the car and drove towards the nearest pass. Qin Shi turned his head and looked out the window, the luster in his eyes clearly extinguished. Qin Shi's mood is a bit complicated. He hopes to meet someone soon, but also doesn't want to see her in Jiyang continent. Extremely dark city. Inside a restaurant. From time to time, Sutingyu would turn his head and look at the door of the restaurant. After repeating it several times, when no one appeared, he couldn't help but mutter, "It's been so long, why hasn't anyone come yet? Guju, is the contact information you released reliable?" In the restaurant, except for the table of Sutingyu and 3 people, there were no other guests, not even the owner and employees of the restaurant were there. Just because Sutingyu had booked this place 2 hours ago, and used it to contact the criminal members scattered throughout Jiyan City. "It's only been 2 hours, why are you in a hurry?" Gucci played with the glass on the table, his voice was calm and steady. "It's been 2 hours. It's not long, right?" When the two of them were pecking each other like 3-year-old children, Shan Yu caught a glimpse of someone appearing outside the glass door of the restaurant from the corner of his eye, and warned aloud, "It seems like someone is coming." "Is it coming? Is it coming?" Sutingyu immediately stopped his useless argument and turned his head expectantly. But when she saw the person coming in clearly, Sutingyu said, "Hey. Why is she a woman? No, I remember hanging the rest sign, so why are there still customers coming to the door?" "Wrong." Shan Yu looked at the makeup, clothing, and walking postures of the 4 women who had just come in. "This is a man," Shan Yu said with some certainty in his tone. Gucci glanced attentively for a few times and called out the name of one of them, Xiong Jingqing. "Master Ju." It turned out to be Master Ju. The 4 women who entered the store looked for the source of the sound. When they saw it was Gucci, their expressions were filled with surprise. The 4 of them hurried over regardless of their disguises. "It's not too stupid for a man to dress up as a woman." Gucci looked at the 4 of them and asked quietly, "Is it just you? Have you met anyone else?" Xiong Jingqing said, "Master Ju, we actually all received the signal and met on the way here. As for the other brothers, we haven't yet." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuan-K. Chapter 749. Oh, I see. After waiting for 2 hours, only 4 people showed up, which was better than not waiting at all. Ahem. Sutingyu coughed twice, attracting the 4 people's attention. Sutingyu had lived in Gu's manor for a while, so Xiong Jingqing and the other 4 also recognized the former. "Do you want to clear this round of dungeons?" Xiong Jingqing and the 4 others nodded after hearing this. "Of course I want to. No player will not want to pass the level." "Master Ju, Miss Su, have you found the clues to the main mission?" The 4 of them were not stupid. Sutingyu must have had other intentions when he said something that seemed like nonsense. Hearing this, Sutingyu pretended to smile mysteriously. "Well, you can understand it this way. We have found a way to quickly clear the dungeon. However, this method requires everyone's cooperation. It can be realized, as long as you do what I say." "Xiong Jingqing, I would like to hear the details." "Okay. You go and gather the remaining criminal members first, gather them all together, hide them, and wait for us to notify you later. As for the time, it will only be in the next 2 days, Sutinyu estimated with his fingers. The 7-day transformation period means that all male players who are in a disadvantaged situation must leave the dungeon world within 7 days. What Sutinyu was more concerned about was Qin-Chi's birthday. In reality, he had to clear the level quickly to avoid missing Qin-Chi's birthday. Xiang Jingqing and the others looked at Guqi one after another. Seeing that the latter had no expression, they readily agreed. Okay, Miss Su. It's all up to you. Immediately afterwards, Sutinyu gave a bank card to Xiang Jingqing and the other 4 as funds for the event. After Xiang Jingqing and the others left, Sutinyu immediately turned against Guqi and said, Guju. The funds for this event were all funded by me, a small employee. You have to reimburse me when I get back. Guqi rolled his eyes. I know. Don't renege on your debt. I have Sister Shanyu as a witness. Shanyu smiled on his face and agreed with Sutinyu. Okay, I will bear witness. Shanyu took out his mobile phone, turned on the screen, looked at the time, and said, it's almost time. I have to go to Milanxiang now. Susu, remember to take good care of our boss. Okay, Sutinyu responded carelessly. After Shanyu left the restaurant, Sutinyu rolled his eyes slightly and made a very sincere suggestion, Guju, do you want to go back? It's not very safe for you to come out, how about it? Guqi glanced at her, no. Guqi changed the subject, do you think your plan is very thorough? What do you mean? Sutinyu looked at it for a moment. Hasn't the plan already been agreed upon? Guqi focused his eyes on the glass in front of him and spoke quietly. The extremely yin zone is dominated by women with an absolute advantage. The extreme yin factor alone cannot do it very thoroughly. However, women's own special abilities and brain development and education are superior to those of extremely yin men. Women have focused on learning and education since childhood. Nurturing, but men just let it go, and this is the reason why women in the extreme yin zone are superior to men. You have a very good idea. You want to create chaos through uprising, but it is not enough. Uprising alone, I believe, has been encountered by women in the extreme yin zone countless times, and they are also skilled in coping methods. Hard. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 750. Sutinyu blinked her big eyes. Women in the extreme yin zone all have supernatural powers, but I don't think they have ever witnessed them with their own eyes, if there is a threat. It seems that it will be very difficult for a male player who has lost the confidence in his inventory and only relies on some ordinary weapons to compete with a very yin woman. Sutinyu did have a way, and that was, hypnosis. However, hypnosis is not a panacea and has time limits. When he was at Blue Star, Sutinyu cooperated with many tests, and the test results showed. Sutinyu singing can hypnotize people regardless of species, but the hypnosis time will vary from person to person. Looking at the overall data, generally people with better physique will be hypnotized for a shorter time. Theoretically, when a person or a certain creature is powerful enough, it will not be afraid of Sutinyu's hypnosis. Of course, this only exists in theory, and creatures that Sutinyu cannot hypnotize have not yet been discovered. In addition, Sutinyu had never shown the power of hypnosis in front of Guqi and Shanyu. If he wanted to use it, how to explain it would be a problem. If, on the day of the riot, all the top officials in Jiyan City were imprisoned, or were hindered by something, then the goal of uprising and causing trouble would be more easily achieved. Sutinyu analyzed Road. Guqi, but the prerequisite is that those people need to get together to have a chance to take action. There's no rush, just wait slowly, as long as it doesn't exceed 7 days. Sutinyu took out the computer he carried with him. Before that, let's finish the preparations first. The route of the city, the hiding places of personnel, the purchase and distribution of weapons. Sutingyu looked at these piles of things, and was very decisive, and passed them all to Gucci. Hey, there are specialties in the arts. Boss, please come. Gucci said and took the computer. I will continue to work on missing persons notices. Sutingyu was worried about Qin Chi's whereabouts. This time, he called a few more radio stations. Until dusk arrived, the two of them came out of the restaurant and went back to look for Shan Yu. But after returning, Sutingyu and Gucci waited until after dinner before Shan Yu returned to the small villa and met them. Sister Shan Yu, you are finally back. Shan Yu rubbed his eyebrows. Mei Wengxiang is a bit difficult to deal with. I can't get over it without giving him any real benefits. In just 1 or 2 days, if Shan Yu didn't have some game items with obvious effects in his inventory, it would be difficult to satisfy Mei Wengxiang just relying on his daily experience. Moreover, although Mei Wengxiang seems to be very courteous to Shan Yu, her true character is no different from other extremely yin women. They are all the same, arrogant, conceited, self-centered, and only care about self-enjoyment. How is the progress on your side? Shan Yu asked. Sutingyu was full of confidence. Everything goes well. That's good. Shan Yu's face relaxed a little. By the way, at noon the day after tomorrow, Mei Wengxiang was invited to a banquet where senior executives gathered. It is very likely that some members of the royal family were also present, and Mei Wengxiang also asked me to go with him. What about you? Do you want to come together? High official, Sutingyu chuckled. Sister, I want to go. Almost all high-ranking officials will come, and even members of the royal family will be present. He, isn't this an opportunity? What else is this? Gucci glanced at Sutingyu, who was becoming extremely excited, and then looked away coldly. Okay, let's all go together. Shan Yu lowered his head and looked at the time displayed on his phone. It's getting late, let's rest first. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 751. Okay, there are quite a few rooms here, which one should I stay in? Suting came to the edge of the stairs in a hurry. Sutingyu turned around, only to find that neither of the two people moved. Gucci, the weather forecast I just checked shows that it is likely to rain heavily tonight, or even the temperature will drop, and there will be frost and other phenomena. Do you understand what I mean? Shan Yu raised his hand and gestured to the mobile phone in his hand. Gucci was still sitting on the sofa, silent. Shan Yu blinked her beautiful eyes lightly, raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and deliberately slowed down her tone. Besides, how can there be? Shut up. Gucci realized what Shan Yu was going to say next and couldn't pretend not to hear, so he could only interrupt hurriedly. Sutingyu, on the other hand, was a little confused. Ah, what kind of riddle are you two doing? Can you tell the little fairy? The little fairy is very curious. Shan Yu smoothed things over. It's okay, Susu, you can go and rest. You can just pick any of the empty rooms here. Oh, okay, Sister Shan Yu. Sutingyu looked at Shan Yu, then at Gucci, and finally chose not to ask anything. After Sutingyu left, the atmosphere in the living room seemed a little stagnant. In the end, it was Shan Yu who broke the deadlock. The room we stayed in for the first night was on the first floor. Shan Yu left the living room and saw the door within a few steps. Why are you standing there? Come in. After Shan Yu opened the door, he didn't rush in. Instead, he turned to look at the man who was still sitting stiffly on the sofa in the living room. Gucci's hands flat on his knees were slightly clenched into fists, then released after a few seconds. Gucci stood up and walked over. Seeing this, Shan Yu turned around and walked into the room. You wash me. As soon as Gucci entered the door, he heard Shan Yu say something. Whatever. Gucci pursed his lower lip. That's okay. The two of them settled their private matters peacefully, just like last night. Then, rest on both sides of the 38th parallel. In the second half of the night, the weather forecast did not deceive Shan Yu, and Shan Yu did not deceive Guqi either. Outside the window, a strong wind blew. After a while, the sound of dripping water could be heard. In the room without a trace of light, Shan Yu opened his eyes and immediately turned around to check on the person next to him. Guqi! Shan Yu shouted softly. No response. The sound of rain outside the window became increasingly fierce, easily covering up Shan Yu's voice. But Shan Yu felt that something was wrong with the people around him. Guqi is very vigilant. Whenever there is any movement, he can react as quickly as possible. Why is it now too quiet? Guqi! Shan Yu called out again. At the same time, she was about to reach out, but she remembered something and turned on the bedside lamp. With the help of the light, Shan Yu could clearly see Guqi's current situation. The man's body was as stiff as a piece of wood, his face looked very uneasy, and his eyes were tightly closed. The light from the bedside lamp fell on half of the bed, and part of it fell on the side of Guqi's face. It seemed that with the light, the nervous look on Guqi's face lightened a lot at a speed visible to the naked eye. When Guqi was completely awakened, he opened his slightly confused cat eyes and looked at Shan Yu with a slightly dull look. Huh. Shan Yu moved his position so that the light from the bedside lamp could shine more on Guqi. Shan Yu saw that the person in front of her had gradually relaxed her body and her limbs were no longer stiff. She stared at it for a while and said calmly, "Are you afraid of the dark? Why didn't you say?" Hearing this, Guqi's body stiffened and he immediately turned his back. Out of sight of Shan Yu, Guqi's right hand clenched the sheets tightly, with a hint of annoyance in his eyes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 752. Looking at Guqi's reaction, Shan Yu blinked her beautiful eyes, raised the corners of her lips slightly, and then pretended that she hadn't said anything and changed the subject. Ahem, Guqi, the weather forecast is quite good. Yes, it's really starting to rain. 1 second, 2 seconds. No response. There are 2 bedside lamps, and Shan Yu currently only turns on the one close to him. After thinking about it, Shan Yu got out of bed, walked around the end of the bed, and turned on the other bedside lamp as well. Shan Yu just turned to look at Guqi, but the latter shrank into the bed, looking awkward as if he didn't want to see her. Cough. All right. Her fault. Shan Yu didn't blink an eyelid and said seriously, I'm used to sleeping with the bedside light on, otherwise I can't sleep, so, sleep with the bedside light on, is that okay? Oh. Someone's muffled voice came from under the bed. Boom. Suddenly, there was a burst of lightning and thunder outside. Shan Yu walked slightly closer to the window and could already see a rapid waterfall hanging on the top of the transparent window. The sound of running water continued to wash the window sill. Shan Yu stared at the pouring rain outside and asked, Guqi, how are you feeling now? It's past midnight now, and it's already the 3rd day of the dungeon. On the 3rd day, the adverse symptoms of physical transformation will continue to increase and worsen. Guqi quietly lifted the quilt off his body, sat up with his back against the wall at the head of the bed, raised his hands slightly, and fisted repeatedly, but it seemed weak. I can't exert myself anymore. Guqi pursed his lower lip. Suddenly, Guqi felt a pain in his heart, as if he was being eaten by thousands of ants. It came so suddenly that for a moment, Guqi almost fainted from the pain. Shan Yu. After he regained his composure, Guqi gasped and asked slowly, during the transformation period on the 3rd day, did you have any symptoms of heartache? Guqi seemed to remember that there were no symptoms of heartache, or was he remembering it wrong? There's no such thing. Do you feel pain in your heart now? Shan Yu turned around and walked over. This time, Shan Yu saw Guqi's face clearly, and found that the latter's face slowly turned red without any warning. Eh? You, why are you blushing? Huh? Red, red. Guqi slowly raised his hand and touched the side of his face. Shan Yu observed Guqi's situation attentively, and his face suddenly turned red. Why did it look like he was about to be cooked? Shan Yu reached out and touched Guqi's forehead, but was shocked by how hot the tentacles were the next second. Is your body getting hot? Under Guqi's slightly doubtful gaze, Shan Yu touched the former's hands one after another. They were still hot. Could this symptom be the symptom of external heat and internal cold on the third day? In this process, it was rare. Guqi just sat there blankly, as if he didn't react at all, allowing Shan Yu to touch him. Are you feeling hot or cold right now? Guqi moved his body and got directly into the quilt, biting his lip. It's cold. The pure and beautiful cat pupils opened slightly, and the shimmering silver mist gradually filled the entire pair of cat pupils, making them appear somewhat mysterious and confused. Shan Yu, I feel a little cold. Guqi grabbed the corners of the quilt with both hands, frowned slightly, and curled up into a ball. Guqi, look at me. Hearing this, Guqi turned to look at the person in front of him. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 753. It can be seen that Shan Yu's heart gradually sank when he saw this scene. Wrong. When did Guqi become so obedient? While Shan Yu was distracted, Guqi huddled in the bed and couldn't even see his head. But his body is feeling hot. Guqi, show your head. Shan Yu's tone became slightly more serious. She can now confirm that although the current Guqi looks normal, he should have lost his original conscious judgment and only blindly obeys his physical and psychological instincts. Guqi raised his head, but his eyes were a little dull. The next second, his tone was slightly higher, a little more disbelieving. You mean to me? Shan Yu had just slapped Guqi's hands away, and when he heard the latter's suspicious question, his expression deepened. I can't hurt you. Who are you? Guqi moved his lips, but didn't make any sound. Guqi, please stop moving. It was impossible to let Gu stay suffocated in bed. His body temperature had increased a lot, and Shan Yu was afraid that he would suffocate himself. Oh, Guqi responded slowly, then turned to look at Shan Yu. His beautiful cat eyes seemed to be covered with a light mist at this moment, adding a bit of real and fake drunkenness. Color. After everyone lay down obediently, Shan Yu returned to the bed, pressed one side of Guqi's quilt with her body, and stretched out her hand to fix it on the other side. When she lowered her head slightly, she looked into the eyes of those beautiful and round cat eyes. In addition to wanting to move around, Mao Tong's owner is now a little more well-behaved and docile than he was when he was a child. After careful observation, Shan Yu indeed discovered that Guqi was very similar to the delicate and charming boy in his childhood, especially the pair of unique and beautiful cat eyes, which were hard to forget after just one glance. It's just that Shan Yu didn't notice it before, because her subconscious had blocked that past memory. And during that period of false happiness, her life was carefully designed. What a proud and noble little princess from a rich family, she is just a lowly tool at the mercy of others. Just as Shan Yu was gradually immersed in his own thoughts, a gentle voice sounded in his ears. Guqi is a child that no one wants and can only be bullied by others. Guqi's voice was light and airy, with little strength and no emotional ups and downs, as if he was explaining something calmly. Shan Yu was stunned for 2 seconds before she realized, Guqi was answering her casual reply just now. Shan Yu looked at those beautiful cat eyes and said seriously, Guqi, no one can bully you now. Yes, you just bullied me. Someone's tone became a few degrees louder. Have it? Why wasn't she impressed? Shan Yu looked at Guqi, who seemed to be awake but was actually confused, and a curiosity suddenly arose in her heart. She asked, "How old are you this year?" I'm counting, 1, 2, 3, as he spoke, Gucci really counted on his fingers. "This year, I am 12 years old." 12 years old. If Shan Yu's previous information was correct, Gucci was brought back to the Gu family by the former head of the Gu family when he was 11 years old. In the same year, he was announced to be Gu Yan's son. Come on. Gucci had completely lost consciousness. "I don't know if I can recover, but if I recover, will I still remember what happened during this period?" Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 754. So, little Gucci, who is 12 years old this year, why are you afraid of the dark? Even now, Shan Yu still feels that being afraid of the dark should not happen to Gucci. I'm not afraid, he retorted, but his head shrank into the quilt. Shan Yu said oh and then suggested, "Since you're not afraid, why not, I'll turn off the bedside lamp." After saying that, Shan Yu made a gesture to get up. "No. Don't turn it off." Gucci opened his round cat eyes and stared at Shan Yu's every move without blinking, fearing that the latter would turn off the light when he wasn't paying attention. "Since you won't let me be imprisoned, there must be a reason, right?" Shan Yu's words gave a little guidance, making Gucci relax his vigilance. "Just tell me quietly, I promise, I won't tell anyone else." Really, I'm not lying." Gucci blinked his cat eyes slightly, as if judging the credibility of Shan Yu's words. After a long while, Gucci spoke slowly, "It's dark, I can't go out, and I'm still hungry." Hearing this, Shan Yu looked stunned for a moment, and then said in a very calm tone, "But you can go out now, but it's night now, so you have to rest, and you can go out during the day. Also, you can feel it. Are you hungry now?" Gucci blinked his eyes and reached out to touch his stomach through the quilt. It seemed that he wasn't hungry. Shan Yu let go of the hand pressing the corner of the quilt, put Gucci's hands outside, and then pressed it again. Gucci twisted his body and found that he couldn't kick the quilt away, so he had to give up silently. Boom! There was another burst of thunder. The storm outside is getting worse. Inside the house, it was a quiet room. Shan Yu was thinking in his mind about the reasons that made Gucci become what he is now. Tonight's strong wind and heavy rain are just an introduction and a fuse. At that time, the bomb was planted. Because of the various restrictions on men in the extreme yin zone, Gucci was either followed by himself or Susu. If there is any trouble, Susu's ability will definitely solve it easily. Yesterday's day progressed very smoothly, and no difficult things were encountered. Considering the current symptoms. Correct. On the night of the first dungeon, Gucci fell into the hands of Chu Xinyu. During this period, Shan Yu had no way of knowing exactly what happened. Could it be that at that time, Chu Xinyu did something to Gucci? "Leng, Shan Yu, I need another quilt." Gucci started making trouble again. "Gucci, please be patient, it will be over soon." Shan Yu comforted the person. "No, don't, it's so cold." Hearing this, Shan Yu had a headache. Grass. The old woman named Chu has so many things to do. I don't know what she did to Gucci. It should be a specialty of the extremely yin zone, specially used to deal with men. Shan Yu had no choice but to compromise and add another quilt to Gucci. After covering it up, Gucci became much more honest and stopped making trouble. "I wonder if I can find it online? Maybe there is any way to suppress it." Shan Yu had this idea in his mind. Without hesitation, Shan Yu touched the mobile phone on the bedside table and immediately connected to the internet to check it. I entered the specific manifestations of Gu Kixin's related symptoms, and then searched with one click. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 755. Is this kind of candy? Shan Yu continued to click in, which detailed the specific uses of this suspected candy item in certain aspects. A kind of aggravation of the extreme yin factor reaction, causing confusion in consciousness, so that the user can absolutely obey the various orders of others and will not resist too strongly. The sales of this kind of item in the extreme yin zone are actually very hot. Because of its effect, it can easily satisfy the needs of extreme yin women in a certain aspect. Where is the effect of the medicine? After understanding what trick Gucci was hit by, Shan Yu went to find a way to remove it. There's no way. I can only let the medicine wear off on its own. Gucci heard Shan Yu's surprised voice and asked curiously, what effect does the medicine have? You, don't say anything. Shan Yu put down the phone and lay down again, his tone a little tired. Gucci shrank his head. Oh. Close your eyes and sleep. Can't sleep, it's too cold. You have to sleep even if you can't sleep. Shan Yu successfully made 12-year-old Gucci become well behaved with his fierce eyes. But before anyone could calm down for a while, they started to make small moves again, and also made accusations along the way. You are cruel to me again. I'm not hurting you, this is not hurting you. It's so fierce. Extremely yin city, somewhere. Are you here? Aren't you going to rest? After the meeting, when Su Jian came back, she saw that all the lights in the living room were on. Su Jian's eyes searched around, while Chu Xinyu stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, it was a violent storm. Chu Xinyu replied quietly, I'll go in a minute. Suddenly, Chu Xinyu sighed softly. It's a pity I don't know who will get the advantage. Thinking of the candy that the children had eaten before, Chu Xinyu's eyes were a little unclear. If that Shan Yu hadn't come out to get in the way. Tisk. The children can now be by her side, and she can tease them at any time, and they won't be so boring anymore. There is a banquet tomorrow, will you also attend? Su Jian asked respectfully. The banquet, Chu Xinyu crossed her arms and asked, will Mei Wengxiang go? Yes, yes. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Chu Xinyu's lips. If Mei Wengxiang goes, it means that Shan Yu will also go, and if Shan Yu goes, it means that the children will also. I'm going to rest first. Chu Xinyu turned around and stretched her body a little. Okay, good night. The third day of the copy, during the day. After struggling all night, after Gucci finally fell asleep, Shan Yu also let go and went to rest on his own. And now, Gucci was the first to wake up. As soon as he woke up, Gucci felt his head was groggy, but when he thought about it deeply, he found that he seemed to be stuck and completely lost the memory of last night. Gucci frowned and went to wash up with a puzzled look on his face. When Gucci came out, Shan Yu also woke up. After thinking for a while, Gucci asked, did anything happen last night? Shan Yu was just about to stretch his body, but when he heard this, his expression became calm, it's no big deal. It rained too much last night, and the symptoms on your body became serious. Is there anything else? Gucci always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Don't think about it. We have important things to do today, so let's focus on this first. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 757. After closing the door, Shan Yu turned to Gucci and said, follow closely later. When you meet Mei Wengxiang, don't look at her and keep a good distance from her. Hearing this, Gucci frowned, what do you mean? I feel like you're going to be targeted, Shan Yu said calmly. I'm not. Gucci looked at Shan Yu and suddenly fell silent, without any further words. But Shan Yu understood what Gucci wanted to say, smiled, and then said with a serious expression, I can't help it, This has to do with some kind of little hobby. If a very yin woman living in such a situation doesn't have much psychology, he is so perverted and twisted, I don't even believe it. Gucci's eyes changed slightly. Anyway, just don't get lost. When Shan Yu and Gucci came out, Sutingyu and the assistant were already waiting in the living room. Once everyone is here, we can set off. The banquet time was obviously set at noon tomorrow, but early in the morning, Mei Wengxiang called for Shan Yu. And what is the reason? Shan Yu can't guess at the moment, so he can only take one step at a time. After leaving the small villa, the assistant led the way. Suting rolled her eyes slightly, took a few steps over, and started chatting with the assistant. "Sister, what's your name? How long have you been following Meiju?" In front, Sutingyu was pestering someone, and Yu and Gucci were following behind. Suddenly, Shan Yu stepped forward in 2 steps, immediately close to Tong Gucci, and covered the latter's ear, looking very ambiguous. Gucci subconsciously wanted to retreat, but at this moment, he noticed that the assistant leading the way was peeking at this side, which made him stop the urge to retreat. Shan Yu put his arm around Gucci's waist and whispered in his ear. "Did you see it? I didn't expect that Mei Wengxiang seemed to be really interested in you. This assistant came here specifically to find out my current attitude towards you. If I were a little colder, I'm afraid, Mei Wengxiang would be in trouble later. He will take the opportunity to ask me for you." I know, Gucci responded slowly, resisting the urge to turn his head immediately. Shan Yu noticed a slight blush on the tips of Gucci's ears. After a second of reaction, she smiled softly. Are you still the same as when you were a child, so shy?" Tisk. It made it seem like I was bullying people, and taking advantage of them unscrupulously. After a while of acting, Shan Yu let go of Gucci's waist with a natural look on his face. As soon as he was free, Gucci couldn't help but take a few steps back. Shan Yu noticed it, but took no further action. Because at this time, the assistant was pestered by Sutingyu again, and was annoyed by the various questions that the latter asked here and there, so he no longer paid attention to the situation of the 2 people behind him. When he saw Mei Wengxiang, before Shan Yu could speak, the former greeted him with a smile. "Master, you're here, haha. When I woke up today, I was so excited that I couldn't help it and sent someone to find you immediately. Didn't I disturb you?" As he spoke, Mei Wengxiang turned around, showing off his waist that had obviously lost weight several times. Nowadays, Mei Wengxiang's body shape is still very robust, but compared to the Big Mac before, she can be regarded as a delicate beauty. "No, I just woke up and was getting ready to go out," Shan Yu replied politely. Shan Yu hadn't heard Mei Wengxiang's malicious thoughts, and until now, the latter hadn't even looked at Gucci, as if he was avoiding them. Tisk. Really good at pretending. Come on, I have asked someone to prepare breakfast. Master, please take a seat."